There was a big shakeup in the C-suite over at Disney that Bob Iger came back as CEO exactly 1 year ago today. Does anyone recall the circumstances as reported by CNBC where Bob Chapek was told that he was going to get the CEO job?
He was at a concert, wasn't he?
No, that's when he got fired. He was at the Elton John concert when he got fired.
Yes, that was when he was fired. But
wasn't it like a plane ride or something?
Okay, so this is beautiful, and I should have brought up the article from Alex Sherman over at CNBC. We're going to keep calling back to this article over the years, but Bob Chapek was originally told in, I want to say 2017, that he was going to be interviewed for the CEO job, and he was going to have to interview with every member of the Walt Disney Company board. That's 12 people, so he's going to have to, 12 individual interviews. And then in 2019, nothing came of that, and in 2019, towards the end of the year, Susan Arnold, who is the chairman of the board of the Walt Disney Company, says, by the way, Bob Chapek, you are now the CEO of the Walt Disney Company. Bob Iger is leaving for some reason. Nobody knows what was going on towards the end of 2020 that Bob Iger, with his close ties to China, might have been aware of. And Bob Iger, quote unquote, left. It means he retired from the CEO position and instead became the executive chairman. And so Bob Chapek was left holding the bag, while Bob was still his boss. Sorry, Bob the Greater was still his boss. And
Power shower Bob.
Eventually, Bob Iger was asked to step down as chairman of the board. And Bob Chapek got 11 rocky months, in which he was allowed to actually be CEO of the company before Bob Iger was brought right back in. And so now, what has Disney accomplished in the last year that has put it on more firm footing than it was before Bob Iger returned?
At the box office. Like, they've shattered so many glass ceilings at the box office. It's unbelievable. I cannot believe how many records they've broken. Just exceptional job by breaking all those records.
The sheer dump trucks full of money, very impressive.
Remember, when Chapek was handed the reins of the company, Bob Iger stayed as an advisory role and also head of creative. So the Walt Disney Company, under Bob Iger's leadership in this past year, brought those films that he approved and he let's say matured to life, and as John said, broke all kinds of records with a huge gobs and piles of money that were just burnt to the ground. So that's great.
Yep.
I mean, you can look at something as a positive here, though, and I'm being serious, is that he did bring in a massive investor who's been buying up stock, seemingly keeping that stock price up, who wants to change the company, but he has kept the stock price up by kind of creating a proxy battle between Nelson Peltz and I can't remember the other guy's name.
Mason Morfitt, yeah.
Morfitt, yeah. So
and not to forget Dan Loeb is also in there as well, yeah. That is a good point. That is one way to boost the stock price, to make it so everybody is gambling to see who is going to get control, and therefore shares become at a premium because everyone wants one because they think somebody else is going to do a better job of managing this company. That is, of course, oversimplifying the situation. But here we are today, and in 1 week, it looks like Disney management is going to be hosting a company-wide town hall there on November 28th. So Tuesday of next week.
I think they had a year anniversary for this, because didn't they do a town hall when Iger came back? And that's when we got the confirmation that he was going to basically double down on all the content that they were creating. Confirming everything that we saw in the Reimagine Tomorrow conference, the town hall conference from, I don't know, was it March? I feel like.
Bob Chapek said that he was going to be firing 7,000 people, and that was pretty much one of his last announcements before he was walked out the door, because nobody liked that Bob Chapek was going to do that, and they blamed Bob Chapek for everything that was wrong in the company. So what they wanted to get Bob Iger back so that it would sound better when all of those people were fired from the company. I guess that's better, except for the fact that Kevin Lansbury, the current interim CFO of the Walt Disney Company, did let it slip on the most recent earnings call that they've actually laid off more than 8,000 people, which is higher than their 7,000 target. And they've also said they're going to do $2 billion more in cuts
from their $5.5 billion target, right?
Yes, and a large portion
after
of
they had their $2 billion write-off for the DTC stuff as well. That
Yes.
included stuff like Willow and the Mighty Ducks and all the stuff that they've removed from Disney Plus that is no longer worth what they said it was worth when they made it.
Yep. It's an amazing thing to. You could say that Disney content is priceless.
Yeah.
Ouch. Sorry, that was a little mean on my part.
It's
So
funny, though.
this town hall meeting, Walt Disney will host a company-wide town hall on November 28th to discuss future projects, according to an internal memo from CEO Bob Iger. And of course, the Walt Disney Company should never assume that anything that they email out to every single employee of the company will stay private. The event will take place exactly a year after Iger hosted his first employee town hall upon returning to Disney as chief executive. Film division head Alan Bergman, Parks chief Josh Tamaro, ESPN's Jimmy Pitaro, and Dana Walden, who leads the TV business, will also join Iger in the discussion, moderated by ABC News anchor David Meir, according to the memo, which was seen by Reuters. The talk will focus on future building opportunities at Disney, the memo said.
So what do we think those future opportunities are going to be? I mean, the only thing we've really seen them talk about as far as growth is the $60 billion investment that they're doing in their overseas parks
over a decade.
Yes,
Over a decade, yeah.
And also that most of that spending will be closer to 2033 than 2023. So they said we expect it to ramp up, and most of that money will be spent after inflation. And after that announcement is long forgotten.
Whoa, but they said they were going to turbocharge the parks division now. So, starting about 2028, we're really going to be ramping up here. It's going to be great.
5 or 6 years from now.
All right.
I guess what's really apparent here, just in the section that you're on here, Jonas, Alan Bergman, Josh D'Amaro, Jimmy Pitaro, Dana Walden's going to be joining him. That didn't happen in the last town hall, so that's kind of interesting.
Let's not forget Dana Walden, who also runs the TV business.
Well, maybe we're preparing to say goodbye to 2 wonderful division heads, along with the divisions. Like maybe ESPN is leaving the fold, and maybe the crown jewel, Capital Cities investments that are ABC network and such. Maybe those are leaving too.
That's a very good point. ESPN right now is divesting some shares. That sounds awful. It sounds like they're getting rid of the company, which they are slightly getting rid of part of the company, but they're bringing on partners for that one. So that one is under less control than it used to be. They also partnered ESPN with Penn in order to do sports booking. I'll say that for danger of miffing the YouTube overlords here.
I'd wager that's not something that people are excited about. If they think about a family company, I would wager that they don't think highly of that partnership with Penn Entertainment.
Yeah, and I would also wager that when ESPN puts their booking figures on the screen when they're talking about each one of the different teams and games and matches that are going to be going on, if they are constantly advertising that service, then I would also wager that that's problematic for people who have an issue with gambling addiction. So Alan Bergman is the head of the movie division, which we're going to talk more about Alan Bergman in a second. Parks chief Josh Tamaro. We obviously have this huge amount of money, $60 billion over 10 years, which is not as much as they've been spending on Disney Plus, even though the parks should be more profitable. And then, of course, the TV business, which is dwindling. They've pretty much announced that because of the deals that they've made with Charter and Spectrum, and has the Comcast deal for the carriages gone through yet? We fully expect that Disney Junior and Disney XD and all of those different National Geographic channels will diminish, and there'll be less for TV to do unless it is under Disney Plus, which appears to be where they're pointing.
Yeah, I would wager that they're probably going to cut the redundancies, kind of wrap them up into their other production companies and studios, and roll them into the Disney Plus Hulu package that they have announced that they're going to be rolling out in their combined app that they're going to. I mean, the Disney's basically following everything that Warner Brothers, I feel like, has done. They're just like a year or two behind on what was going on, because we had HBO Max and Discovery Plus were wrapped into the new Max, and it feels like that's what Disney's doing here with Disney Plus and Hulu, and so that I feel like that's what we're going to see happening, is just kind of more cuts, more redundancies reduced or eliminated, and having it wrapped up into Disney Plus and Hulu. I do have a problem with Dana Walden still running the division. She kind of exposed herself as a massive activist during the Reimagine Tomorrow stuff back in March. Yeah. So if she's still a part of this and her job isn't being cut, to me, that just shows that the Walt Disney Company still cannot identify their problems, their core problems, and they're going to continue to double down on this stuff. And audiences are going to continue to reject it en masse as they have been. And I do feel like we have been seeing a massive Walt Disney Company boycott. People just aren't really calling it that, but they are indeed not going to see these movies, not watching their TV and everything.
I think you have a very good point there, and we saw those Rasmussen numbers about the cultural exodus from the Walt Disney Company as far as their audience, and also, of course, the creative exodus from the company itself. In looking at this paragraph here, I wanted to throw it to you guys, though. Who do you think is in the greatest danger in this paragraph? I have an answer that I'm going to hold to myself that I think is interesting. Culture?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Vash.
Just to look at this list here, man, probably Jimmy Pitaro, and only because, when we see Iger out and about nowadays, whether it be the Oscars or whether it be Disneyland Paris, we see this cohort with him, especially Dana Walden by his side, touring all these things. So I guess he's taken a particular liking to her. I don't necessarily imagine her being gone, but I do agree with John in his assessment that she has been exposed to be a huge activist within the company. I do agree that there's going to be some corporate consolidation. And does Jimmy Pitaro still run ESPN with that partner? I think I can't imagine that necessarily occurring. This update here featuring these people is very, very interesting.
Yep. Culture, did you have something to chime in with there?
I was going to suggest David Muir because he's
there you go.
I mean, that was my guess from the beginning, but no, actually, joking aside, I would say Pitaro's probably the guy that they could lose. Although, look, Josh D'Amaro is falling out of favor across all elements, like whether it be the fan community, the Super Pixie Dusters, people like me who saw him as a charlatan rather early on in his leadership role. But the only person of strength that is listed there is Bergman. Mm-hmm. I think Bergman's the only guy that has any future. He's an executive in waiting. I mean, like a C-suite, like the top of the C-suite, food chain. So I think that he has the most room for advancement. Walden obviously is the person that they will try to put in charge of the company there. That she's probably the CEO in waiting.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And we've had some sources reach out in the past that from the corporate headquarters that say that if Bergman and Walden are given their choice of who's going to run, who is to blame for the current situation at Lucasfilm, Walden would be more towards Kathleen Kennedy being right, and Bergman would be more towards maybe replacing her or looking for some change over there at Lucasfilm. Now, I don't want to say that the entire argument pins on Lucasfilm, but I'd say that is a strong indication of where priorities lie.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.